Hey guys, Ponce on the public test realm, and the purpose of the video here today is actually twofold. One is actually quite a simple issue. Darius was slightly buffed. It's not a huge deal. Basically, the window between recasting your or the window you have to recast your ult after you get it to kill someone, and you have time to cast it again. It's 12 seconds normally. On the public test realm, I don't know if this will go live or what the purpose of this is, but it's gone up to 20. So I mean, it's not the biggest thing ever. A long team fight, you can hold on to your ult a bit longer, so that's kind of neat, I guess. Certainly doesn't affect the lane at all, really. It's definitely not like Darius's old ult, where you just had it forever, so long as like there was no refresh time thing. But the more important thing is actually the fact that this happened got me thinking about Darius again. And this is just pure speculation on my part. I'm not a Darius player. I don't like the fact that he's kind of easy to kite, so I don't play him too much. I did play him a little bit at release, but not too much other than that. But yeah, I was kind of thinking that maybe Darius is sort of a counter to the whole just go pure tank and sit and farm top lane thing. I mean, I have my own counters to that anyway, so I'm not suddenly going to start spamming Darius because I have my ways of dealing with it, and that's a whole other matter that's not relevant to this video. But as a top lane player, but yeah, I was thinking Darius might be a good way to basically counter that sort of very passive. I'm going to build pure tank and farm my way to some kind of very boring victory. Because well, there's several reasons for this. A, obviously he has passive armor shred if you start or armor penetration if you start specking E. But more importantly, it's kind of about his play style. You know how, for example, the classic example I'm going to use are like Nasus or examples are going to be Nasus and Shyvana, who just kind of sit there and they're really tanky, and if you get near them, they just sort of push you out of lane because you can't really do damage to them, and especially in the case of Nasus, he just sustains it back, and you just sort of waste your time while he just farms up. Darius, on the other hand, is I'm sure you guys have played against him. Not too much because he's not the most popular champion ever, but he just kind of stands in front of you, or like right in a minion wave, and deals horrifying amounts of damage. Like, he's sort of the quintessential lane bully. He does fall off later on with problems about easy to kite and stuff, but at least in the laning context, he just kind of, he'll come up to you, and it's kind of hard to get away from him because he'll pull you in, and he just does ridiculous damage you can't really sustain through, especially if it requires you to get near the minion wave, because he'll just keep using the decimate ability on you. If you get too close, he apprehends you. And obviously Darius has a lot of weaknesses, and if you remember way back at Darius release, people were complaining about him a lot. It was incessant complaining that just didn't stop. It's, oh my god, Darius is so overpowered, why was the champion at release? I never thought that. And you notice people don't complain about this guy anymore, is because he has a lot of weaknesses. There are very, very specific ways to counter him, or very effective ways to counter him, namely like poke and understanding all. Like, if you memorize his cooldowns and know his exact range, you just stand outside of apprehend range, wait for him to waste something, and then you go in. A smarter Darius is going to be a bit harder to deal with because he saves his abilities, and he's going to hit you with the outside portion of the queue every time. And it's a bit more difficult to manage, but so long as you have good poke and an understanding of his threat range, like Darius is very, very easy to control. If you screw up, then yeah, it's pretty scary, because Darius is one of those champions that even if you're winning the lane, if you stop paying attention for half a second and decide to go, hey, I can ignore his damage, I'm going to get that one last hit and ignore his cooldowns, you can die even though you have the lead, which is quite unusual for a top lane. But aside from those weaknesses, that's not what's really going on top lane anymore. It's not so much about poke and that kind of thing. It's tanky sustain is mainly what I'm seeing. Largely, most likely due to the change to the defensive tree, which you can argue were overpowered. I think it's probably, like, when I did the preview video for the changes to the Season 4 Masteries trees, like, that's the first thing I queued in on. It was like, wow, the defensive tree is really powerful now. And it's been nerfed since then. Maybe not enough, but in any case, for the time being, it's really strong. People have been doing the tanky thing, like I keep saying. Darius, I think, yeah, you don't counter Darius by becoming tanky, really. Not too much, anyway. At least in the lane. And if you don't have the poke to poke him out, well, how are you going to push him out to get to the minion wave to heal yourself? Interesting. And the other interesting thing I was thinking about, at least considering, like this is pure speculation again, is maybe going boots and mobility top lane on Darius, because Darius's Noxian, no, not Noxian Guillotine, Apprehend is really easy to predict. Like you just see him walking towards you, and so long as you have the cone distance memorized, see the cone, memorize that, you stay out of that cone range, and you know you're generally fine. But with boots and mobility, it's like this. You know how what's that guy called? Blitzcrank sometimes build boots and mobility bottom lane. Use it as that kind of idea. It's like an unpredictable speed sort of boost that you know you can't really keep up with. Darius runs towards you unless you can poke him down. He's going to apprehend you, and especially if as Darius has the lead, if he apprehends you, you're pretty much dead unless you can maybe flash out or something.
I do not tolerate cowardice.
Now the other thing I would want to talk about is I've mentioned this in previous videos as well, but if the other guy is rushing pure tank, well, if you build Last Whisper and completely negate all his armor, Decimate's going to be really powerful, I would assume. And of course you still have your true damage, which is not affected by it, although it does scale with the extra AD from Last Whisper. So I don't know, I think I might test this in my live stream today, just kind of experiment a bit with Darius, see how he does, you know, in the modern top lane. So those of you guys who already played Darius, I'm sure you've already drawn your conclusions as to his viability and whatnot. Of course, none of this still addresses his sort of weaknesses later on, his easiness to kite, and you know, that kind of thing. But at the very least, you'll have a very strong laning phase, I would imagine. So like I said, I really want to experiment with this. If it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't work out, and this is just a failed hypothesis. But yeah, that's it from me. Gonna test out Darius probably in my stream today. See you guys around with any other video I have in the future. Goodbye.